Here's a list of supplies you will need to complete this project. 1 piece of fabric 15 inches by 7.5, 2 smaller pieces that are 2.5 by 4 inches, a large needle, a bobby pin, or another item to pull your elastic through the sides at the end, a piece of wire, I'm using electrical wire with the ends folded over, a rotary cutter or scissors, snips, these are optional, pins or wonder clips, and then elastic, approximately 11 inches long, and an iron, a sewing machine, and something to measure. Okay, first step. We're going to fold our large piece lengthwise and then sew a straight seam to connect it into one loop. I'm using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but you can use whatever works for you. So now I turn our loop right side out and fold along the seam, and now we're going to sew another seam about 1/2 inch down to give us a small channel for our wire nose piece. You'll notice that I'm not backstitching any of these seams. That's fine, they don't need to be backstitched until the very last step. Now here we're going to fold about 3 times over. These don't need to be exact, but mine turn out to be 1.5 inches typically. Iron them down nicely so that you get crisp lines in your fabric. Now this has given us guidelines to create the accordion folds. So unfold it, flip it over, and now you can see we have 3 nice sharp lines. And you're going to pinch at the bottom one and then pull down about halfway. Hold that one there. Do the same thing with the next. Pinch at the little fold and then fold it over half its length. And again with the very top one. So now we have 3 accordion folds. And now we're ready to iron this down, give it a quick press so that it stays in this nice shape for us for our next step. And this is going to be our main mask piece. We will now take our 2 small rectangles and line them up so that the right sides are facing the same direction. And this way we can iron them and get them exactly the same size. So you're going to fold over approximately 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch on each of the short ends and iron those down. Now flip it over and do the same thing for the other short end. For this next step, you may need to take your pieces apart and do one at a time depending on how thick they are. Now you're going to take both long ends and fold them over approximately 1/4 inch, and then fold it in half lengthwise and iron. Now do the exact same thing for your other side piece. Now let's put those pieces together. So take your main mask piece, make sure your accordion folds look good, and now what you're going to do is take one of the side pieces and lay the mask on top of it, making sure that those edges that you just ironed stay nice and crisp. If your side piece is too long, you can adjust the top or bottom fold and make them even. The next step is sandwiching your main mask in between the side piece by folding along those lines that you already made with your iron. Now here's where those clips or pins come in. If you're an experienced seamstress or only making one mask at a time, you may not need any pins or clips, but it is a good idea to at least put one when you first start out to hold your pieces in place. Let's do the same thing to the other side and try to keep your pleats even if you had to make some small adjustments, and clip to hold it in place. Back to the sewing machine we go. Now we're going to be sewing on one of our little side channel pieces. You're going to want this seam to be very close to that inside edge of your channel piece, between 1/8 and 1/16 of an inch. You're going to need to make sure that both the back and front of your side piece are lined up very well so that you stitch through both of them. And you need to backstitch or secure in some manner both the start and finish of this short little seam. I've learned over time in making masks that functionality trumps perfection, so if your seams look a little bit wiggly, don't even worry about it. Now it's time to add our wire nose piece. So we have one side seam done, and then this little channel that we created at the very beginning. Take your wire and insert it into the channel. The end should be bent over enough that you are confident that your needle is not going to hit into the wire when you sew that second little side piece on. So now we will go ahead and sew that final seam. Don't forget to backstitch the beginning and end of this seam. Washing machines are really rough on masks, and you don't want all that beautiful work you did to come unraveled the first time you throw it into the wash. Speaking of which, the wires really like to try to escape from these seams, so make sure you go all the way up to the very top, which you can see I just have maybe 1/8 of an inch here, and I'm actually going to go back over that and make sure that there's no way for the wire to wiggle its way out in the washer or dryer. We're almost there, guys. Now you just need to go ahead and clip off all of those little bits of thread. All of your sewing is done, and now we just need to insert the elastic for your ear loops. A second option would be to use cotton lycra or a t-shirt material that rolls when you cut it. This is 1 inch by 2.5 to 3 feet long. After cutting, you can just pull on it and it turns into a nice cord that needs no seams. So here's where the big needle, bobby pin, or whatever you might have on hand comes in. Go ahead and thread your elastic through one of the side channels and tie it. I tie instead of sewing so that these are fully adjustable. It can be untied and retied tighter or looser as needed. Now if you were using elastic, you would just go ahead and thread your other side through and you would have your 2 ear loops. But I want to show you with the cord as well. I find that these fit better with children. They're much more adjustable. You're going to go in from the bottom to the top and use your nose wire to remind you where your top is, just in case you forgot. Pull a decent amount through, and then on the other side you're going to go from the top down to the bottom. This leaves you with a loop that you can now put over your head, adjust the sides, and then pull and tie behind your neck. Your mask is all done. I'm Kendra Petrie for the Flathead Valley Mask Makers and YWAM Montana Lakeside. I hope this tutorial helps you.